Is that a problem?
You can shut it if you want to get up and.
Do you need it?
Matt, can you shut the office front door?
The big door?
Yeah. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Is that going to change the shot?
No.
This is great, by the way.
Oh,
Very,
good.
Very natural, very.
Oh, that's good.
So,
Should I be looking at you? I keep
Yeah,
like
I'm sorry, I
always,
should've
I
said
never
that.
know the direction.
yeah, if you keep looking at me.
Okay.
We'll be able to different angle. Well, multi-cam.
Sounds good.
Are we rolling?
Yeah, we're still rolling.
Speaking of multi-cam, do you use multi-cam as well?
I do. Yeah, I think every project that I've worked on in the last in the last several years has been, you know, with multicam. But I know on Black Lady Sketch Show, for example, you have multiple different cameras and angles capturing, especially improv moments, because it's such an improv heavy show. So, you know, I think having multicam options was super helpful for that because continuity does not necessarily match, and being able to kind of cut between the angles helps a lot.
So working with
Yeah, that's quite enough.
any other tricks? Do you use Animat to help create any sort of building the scene a little better or creating sort of reaction?
I use Animat a lot, but what I do a lot actually is split screen different takes. So sometimes I'll like one person's like reaction in one take and one person in a different take. So I'll split it down the middle if it's, you know, a still shot. I do that a lot. I use fluid morphs a lot, just to try to trim down time sometimes, or just to try to make something feel a little more seamless than it maybe was, especially if it's a cheat.
And have you always wanted to be an editor?
I didn't know that editing was even a career path that you could take. You know, growing up, I always was like, oh yeah, you could be like a director or a writer, but like you don't really hear about the editing aspect of things. So when I came out here and I happened upon a night assistant editing job, I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was like an option, and you're kind of writing, because I really like writing, and I was like, well, you're writing, but you're also doing pacing, and you're dealing with music and sound, so it's kind of like a all-inclusive way of telling the story, and you have more control of the finished product.
What do you like about being an editor?
All of the things that I just said, but I think I like being an editor because you're able to kind of put your own like nuance and take on things, and you're able to kind of tell a story in your own unique way. And you know, despite the fact that it's a super collaborative art form, you know, you're also able to just like go in there and like really focus, really get sort of the pacing and timing and all the nuance down that you want to be in there, and just having that end control over like what is put out there into the universe.
Speaking of collaborating, obviously we're collaborating with Jessica and Daisha as well. Were you using Nexus shared storage? Were you working remotely? Were you sending stuff back and forth? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so on A Black Lady Sketch Show season 2, we were all remote because of COVID, but we were using Avid and also Nexus shared storage. And I think that was crucial to us being able to get the season done in a timely, orderly fashion. We basically use a shared project on that show because everyone's doing different sketches and you don't know what episodes things are going to land in. So, you know, Avid's ability to let people all work within the same project and in the same workspace was just critical to us being able to collaborate. And then, you know, external plugins such as like Evercast, for example, were super helpful in being able to not only collaborate but also just like see each other, you know, in the remote world.
Sorry if I asked this. If you were giving advice to somebody wanting to get into editing, what sort of advice would you give them?
I think I would just tell them to watch as much content as possible if someone was wanting to get into editing, and it's kind of the opposite of what anyone's parents would tell them, but I think it's so important to see what's out there, see what different types of media exist, what you might be interested in, but what you might be able to learn from. You know, I mean, even working on a Black Lady sketch show, watching like a horror movie, you might catch something that you're like, oh, I never thought of cutting something using a sound effect like this. So I think watching content is critical. I think being able to look at the end credits and kind of see, maybe you might see a trend, or you might be like, oh, this is an editor that I've seen worked on this other project that I really like and respect. And sometimes, you know, by doing that, you're like, okay, I know this person, I might be able to reach out to them. So I think that's the final thing, is just being able to reach out to people, because I think people appreciate that, even though it's super intimidating, and I think nobody's nature is to just like immediately reach out to people. But I think it's also just like so helpful to be able to get feedback and thoughts, and kind of just meet a variety of editors, because you can learn so much.
So you find editors are, it's a very welcoming community, it's a lot of information and knowledge is shared between everybody.
I think so, because I think we all approach editing differently, you know. So it's always interesting to talk to other editors. Sometimes they have completely different shortcuts than you do. Sometimes they might approach a project differently than you would, or have different recommendations of things to try. So it's always important, I think, to interact with other editors.
Awesome. And one last thing, because I think that's pretty good. That's a speed round. Any other things you want to mention about Media Composer, or any feature that you're like, wow, I just found out about this new feature that I want to tell the world about?
You know, I haven't become super well versed yet in the newest version of Media Composer, but I have seen that there is a feature called, I think it's Timeline Overview. And you're able to kind of like hover over your timeline and see a thumbnail of something and zoom in on it. And that to me is like just so amazing.
So yeah, the
I'm
sequence
very-
map where you can see
Yeah, I'm very like eager to test that out, because I feel like so often it's like you zoom out and you're like, where on this giant timeline is this thing? So I'm excited to test that out and see how it works.
Awesome. One last cheesy thing I must ask, and you can say no to it. If you could like look in the camera, you want to do something to welcome new people to the Avid community. So if you just want to look at the camera and say, welcome to the Avid community.
You don't have to do that if you don't want to.
If you don't want to, it's okay. If you don't want to.
Sure.
So now I made you self-conscious about it by yelling.
Or you can, right.
Sorry.
Or you can say, welcome to Avid, which Matt would prefer.
I like that better, of course.
Okay.
Let me say that. Welcome to Avid.
Welcome to Avid.
Beautiful.
Okay, can I have you just give your name and credits one last time to him? Just
Sure.
so,
I'm Stephanie Philo, and I'm a TV editor. Do you want me to spell it or anything?
no. that's
Okay.
fine.
Great.
Okay.
You need stills?
Yes.
Just a couple still shots up there. Put that on.
Cameras are rolling. And we're
Okay,
doing
so
this.
we need some.
Huh? And we're doing this for fun. Just
We're doing the slate.
Nice.
you see her
Yes.
interview with Stephanie. Take one.
So we'll go ahead and start with, I'm going to say your name and some of the shows you have been working on, or
Sure. Well, my name is Stephanie Philo. I'm a TV and film editor. I just recently finished working on a show called Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. So it's a limited series coming out next year about Jeffrey Dahmer, which is very uplifting, as you can imagine. And then before that, I was working on a Black Lady sketch show.
the Emmy Award winning, right?
Yes.
So congratulations again on your award.
Thank you very much.
So we're here to talk about, of course, Media Composer, and you use Media Composer in the Black Lady sketch show, so thank you. So as you're using Media Composer, are there any go-to features that you would like to maybe tell somebody about?
Sure. So the feature that I absolutely can't live without in Media Composer is Select All Right. It sounds like such a basic feature, but I love, I think when I first learned how to edit, I was using Final Cut 7, and somehow that's like one of the features that I guess translated from that into Avid for me. So I will select all the tracks, and if you hit Option Add Edit, when